JPEGMAFIA has become a beacon in hip-hop, giving hope to fans who want original and creative music. But there's something really interesting in how he got here. Most people first heard of JPEGMAFIA after his album Veteran. This is when his meteoric rise began.
One of the most off-the-wall and creative rap projects I've heard in a while.
His name started to appear on lists alongside rap favorites like Pusha T, Earl Sweatshirt, and Denzel Curry, and it made people wonder, how is this unknown guy making music as good as all of these established artists? Well, the answer can be found way back here, before Veteran. During this period, JPEGMAFIA was still exploring and experimenting. And here's where things get interesting. When you listen to his earlier music, you can actually hear a lot of ideas from another producer, one he names as his biggest influence, in fact.
It's Kanye West. That's just it. He's the best.
Now at first it might be hard to hear what Kanye and JPEGMAFIA have in common. They have drastically different styles and sounds, but when you break down the ideas behind their production, the answer starts to become clear. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. By exploring the beat techniques that Kanye helped bring to hip-hop, you'll start to see how he influenced JPEGMAFIA and how Peggy took these ideas to build his own sound. And you can even use these ideas in your beats. But before we start, hit like or subscribe. And if you do, I'll share a cool piece of trivia with you. When I made the soundtrack for my friend Pedro, I was listening to a lot of JPEGMAFIA at the time, and that inspired the name of one of the songs, GIF Gang. Like JPEGMAFIA, GIF Gang. That incredibly interesting piece of trivia will impress every woman that you tell it to, so start picking up the ladies with that one. You're welcome. Anyways, let's start with the first idea. A major staple of Kanye's earlier sound was the use of vocal samples and huge synths in his beats. And this is something that you can hear in JPEGMAFIA's music too, but the way that Peggy used these ideas was different and his own. One of the best examples is in a song that he put out way back in 2017 called Starcade 97.
I'm almost out of sauce Bitch, I'm almost out of sauce.
Now again, this sounds nothing like a Kanye beat, but when you break down the ideas used in this beat, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. First, here's the sample that was used. So instead of speeding up soul samples like Kanye, JPEGMAFIA finds a different approach to the same idea. He uses a different genre entirely for his vocal sample first off. And as you can see, instead of speeding the sample up, he pitches the sample down. And in this beat, we see some really intricate sampling techniques. Different chops are stretched at different percentages, and the way that he fills pockets to create a cohesive loop is really interesting. Next, like Kanye, we see the use of synths in this beat too. But again, it's the details that JPEGMAFIA does differently. Instead of using these bright, airy synths that sit on top of the beat like Kanye, we have these warmer tone, low-key synths that are often used. So vocal samples and synths are a common theme in both Kanye's and JPEGMAFIA's beats, but how these ideas are used in their beats is where you start to see the difference and the innovation. So let's use this approach in a beat of our own. First, I'm going to grab this sample here. So I'm foregoing the typical soul sample and using something a bit different. Next, I'm going to pitch the sample down instead of up and chop the vocals in the sample. Now after I bring in my drums and my bass, I'm going to layer this brassy, warm synth instead of a brighter one. By the way, if you want help to become a beatmaker also, I want to share my online course, Better Beatmaker. After struggling to learn from YouTube for a couple months, Lynx decided to join Better Beatmaker. He made so much progress so fast that his beats were chosen by an artist just 6 months after joining. It's crazy because it took me years to get this good. So if you want to make progress fast with your beats too, the link is in the description box below if you want to check it out. Now there's another idea that I used in this beat that I want to talk about. In Kanye's later music, we start to see him depart from these ideas into a more low fidelity distorted sound, like on 808s and Yeezus.
Yeezy season approaching, fuck whatever y'all been hearing, fuck whatever y'all been wearing.
So let's compare this to JPEGMAFIA's earlier work as well. For example, on All Caps No Spaces, which came out in 2016.
Money talks, niggas walk. Young Reagan, I'll be damned if I take a loss.
Again, here JPEGMAFIA draws inspiration, but just does things differently. Instead of distorted synths and minimal structuring like Kanye, JPEGMAFIA distorts a lot more to create this more maximal sound, and he structures his beats heavily around these distorted sounds as well. You can see it's not like he uses that many sounds to build the core loop of this beat, and yet just with these few sounds, it fills up so much space. The reason why this idea works is because how colorful and over the top many of these textures become. And this can help you make your beats sound so much more full too. So here's how to do it. There are definitely tools that right out of the box can help you bring that distorted aesthetic to your beats. But if you want a free tool that can help you with this, I recommend Camel Crusher. I'll drop a link in the description box below. Putting this onto any sound can give you a much more maximal feel. So here's a snare before Camel Crusher and after. And we can even do a quick little experiment. Here I made this drum loop, and here's how it sounds without any distortion tools like Camel Crusher. Sounds a bit empty and incomplete, but once we turn them on, much more full. And this approach to distorted audio can be found in both JPEGMAFIA's and Kanye's discography. The main difference being with how much distortion is used and on which elements. So it's interesting. As you can see, there are a lot of parallels between these two guys that make them great producers and phenomenal artists. Now, if you want a deeper dive into either Kanye or JPEGMAFIA, I do have videos on both of them. They should be showing up next to me. So if you're a fan, click on one of them. And while you're at it, click on like and subscribe if you're a fan of me. I hope you enjoyed this video, my love. And yeah, I'll see you next week.